The top eight stories. The top stories of the year is kind of interesting because, like, how do we even rate it
on a 1 through 8 scale?
I'm not that. But I'm just saying, like, how do we judge? Better yet, how do we judge that? You know what I mean? That's gonna be the biggest. I think that's the biggest challenge we're gonna have with this episode. Now that I think about it,
Well, there's always that, and just keeping the episodes coming.
I mean.
So,
we're kind of waiting to get canceled. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Press Talk Sports Live. I am your host, Jeff Weisinger. Joining me once again on the final countdown, the Madden 22 National Champion, the soon-to-be Esports Hall of Famer, in the LUHSD Hall of Fame, Juan Cebreiros.
Good morning. Moving day cannot come fast enough.
I'm telling you, man.
Sorry.
When is your moving day? Do you even know?
I don't know yet. Sometime in July, I think.
It's going to be July. Then it's going to be end of July. Then it's going to be like first week. When do you start school at Fresno?
They start August 17th, 19th.
August 17th? So moving day is going to be like August 15th? There's no way you're going to be there a month before you start.
Late July, and then I'm there for 2 weeks?
Probably. See, 2 weeks, that makes more sense.
I don't know. I never
to get acclimated and all that kind of stuff.
Before, so.
I mean, I know it was a master's, but when I did Berkeley, like, I think I got there like a week before. If that, and we had like orientation and all that kind of stuff.
That's too far. That's too long.
But yeah, happy Wednesday.
It is a Wednesday.
It is Wednesday.
A
little bit of. You wish it was Thursday. One day closer.
Good point. Very good point.
On this episode of Press Talk Sports Live, we are going to talk about the top stories of the year. A lot happened this year.
This school year, not
this calendar year. No, it within the 2024-2025 academic year. I think it's funny because we wrote the story for last week's issue, and we had to come up with our top stories. We tried to do top 10, ended up being top 8 because what we could fit on the page.
Sorry to the team that didn't make
that. But it's interesting because, like, the hardest part is, this team did this team did that. Like, how do you kind of not only rank them, which we probably did not do a great job on, but also, like, how do you, like, how do you pick? You know what I mean? I think that's the biggest.
Dart at a wall.
Spinning
wheel. Numbers out of a hat. That's a great way to do it.
So what we really do, we get, that dog doing like all the playoff stuff?
Yes.
That throws the ball down the stairs?
Just have them do that.
So we have 2 storylines, and we just say, which one do you choose? And it goes that way. And I feel like that's like the best way for us to do it.
We do have a dog in the office.
We do have a dog in the office. We need to start putting Lola to work a lot more.
I don't like the way you just said that.
That sounded. You know what? That sounded different. I know what I meant by that but now after saying it, I'm like, yeah, okay, hold on.
All right, Michael Vick, relax.
No, we need to put her. Show the boy. I'm not gonna say it. I had a joke for that.
Moving on.
But moving on, like, that's the hard part.
Very smooth.
But first off, quick housekeeping. Shout out the London Shed episode, our first 100 view episode on YouTube.
More golf claps.
That was awesome. That was fun. If you haven't checked it out yet, it's live on Spotify, Apple Pods, and YouTube. Over 100 already. Just short. Already did numbers. Liberty's also just like running with it. So.
Oh,
I think we got one right. Probably.
Hopefully. I got a shout out. This is not a sport athlete. War at the Alameda County Fair. That was the best concert I've ever been to.
How was that? You went to that?
Dude, those 7-year-olds up there can jam. Let me tell you something. They can jam. I should have been born in the 70s. Oh, God.
I mean.
I would have been perfectly.
Do you really wish you were born in the 70s, though?
In that atmosphere,
bro, I was born in the 80s. I was born in the late 80s, and it's like,
It was great. They came out to me and Baby Bro. I knew all the songs because my dad, my grandfather.
Mm. Where were you guys sitting?
Not like in front of the stage, but like not in like
in the middle.
Yeah.
Okay.
Somewhere in the middle, but I mean they're a jam band. Like any jam band concert's amazing. A great concert.
That's awesome. It's like I totally forgot. It's like fair season.
They gave a tribute to Sly.
Sly Nice.
They finished up their set with a higher.
Okay.
So that was really.
That's actually really cool.
It was a really cool concert.
I keep forgetting it's fair season though.
Yeah, I hear everyone talk about the Alameda County Fair. I've never heard anything about the Contra Costa County Fair. I'm not gonna lie.
I mean, but that's the thing. Like,
it's more like the farming and agricultural. I mean,
the Pleasanton Fair coming up?
No, Alameda County Fair is in Pleasanton.
Is it one in Pleasanton? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw something about it on Cron 4, I think, a couple days ago. Not last
Yeah,
week.
because it was opening day. Too Short's going to be there on the 25th.
Okay.
And I think Tower Power is going to be there the day after.
That's going to be fun.
So shout out Bay Area.
I will say when Tower Power, it's funny because when Tower Power came here last year for Juneteenth, it was so lit.
That's right.
Remember that?
That's
it was
right.
So
they were.
lit.
Who's coming this year for Juneteenth?
It's someone bigger, actually.
Please be war. Please be war. Please be war.
It's not war. It's not war.
Damn it.
It's not a war. It's not. You ask. We actually did something with it. And I feel like if I search it on thepress.net, I will find it. Ridiculously shameless plug.
Shameless plug. But yeah, War came out to Being Baby Brother. They played the song everyone woke up to at 3 a.m. to George Lopez at Nick and Night. Lowrider. Dude, it was great.
Yes. The Nick and Night reference was perfect.
Dude, it was just a great concert. Great concert. I don't know what else to
I'm
say.
trying to remember who. Is it this one? I'm trying because we actually mentioned who the performer was going to be. I thought we.
Someone
reading about it's someone pretty big actually. I do know that much.
E40.
Bro, can you imagine?
E40 coming out to Brentwood.
There are two things I will say because given the times, there are two things I will say if E40 came to Brentwood. One, the amount of hype there will be, but two, the amount of complaints we'll get on social.
Yeah, but dude, I remember last year at the Juneteenth festival,
fun.
everyone was like,
everyone was down. It was good, dude. I'll say that the Juneteenth celebration last year at City Park was actually it was pretty well done.
It was really big. I remember a lot of people.
And I remember
liking it.
It's funny. I remember talking to the artists after, and they were just like, "It's hard." They were surprised that this was happening in Brentwood. Which is actually, I think, more... No, but it's actually more the commentary I think that needs to be held because, like...
Because, fair.
Right. No, it's... I can't find who it was, but...
We'll figure it out eventually.
Yeah. But,
we'll
it's interesting. Yeah. It's a fun time. Spent half the podcast trying to figure out who's performing in Brentwood. But, no, the Brentwood one's tomorrow. Because we're recording on Wednesday, on the 18th. So, Brentwood one's tomorrow. But, no, excited for it. Yeah, it was lit last year. All the food trucks last year and everything. The performances were on point. When Tower Power came out, that was like the freaking show, man. Like everyone just kind of came up on the lawn and such at the stage.
Because they're Bay Area, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Oakland.
Them and Confunction are Bay Area. If I'm not mistaken.
I want to say Oakland. But it was dope. So
love my Bay Area peeps, but sorry, War just knows how to get down.
I'm just looking forward to the commentary we're gonna get, the comments we're gonna get from our esteemed Brentwood citizens. Because Lord, I just know where that's gonna go.
Moving on.
I have an idea where that's gonna go.
Probably.
I want to be wrong on that, but yeah, moving on. So
I guess we'll talk about sports. I
guess we have to. I mean, why not? It is kind of the point of the podcast, and why no one pays us.
Please help.
Please help keep the lights on. Do I do the ad read now then?
No,
out of desperation.
No.
We had a lot happen this year. I mean, when in the 2 years we've been doing this, 22, 24, 24, 25.
This was the most successful.
This was, for all the schools, this was the most successful, like.
2 state runs, multiple NCS appearances, an NCS title, a lot of playoff wins, a lot of great regular seasons, a lot of undefeated in league too, which is really rare.
It was a good year until state, but it was a good year.
Yeah,
until state happened.
It's really interesting that every team out here fell short in state. Now that I think about it, Pitt fell short to Achilles Smith Jr. Liberty fell short.
I mean, also Achilles Smith Jr.
Yeah, Oregon bound, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Liberty fell short in state semis after. Granted, they went to Fresno on a school night and upset the 3 seed. So there's that.
I mean, to be fair. But also that, what was it, that quarterfinal was? When we went to Dublin? Pleasanton?
No, when we went to...
Where the hell did we... Centermone, right?
Went to Danville.
Danville, there you go.
At Monte Vista for them to play Centermone Valley. It all makes sense.
Geography. But SRV, the girls had a gym, I think. That's the story I think
That's what I think it was. I don't know.
They just want to stick it to Monte Vista. Maybe.
Danville.
Because rivalry.
Danville's an interesting town. What can I say?
Yep. One way to
drove
put it.
down there blasting no Vaseline. I got some weird looks.
That is the way to do it. We'll say that's the way to do it.
Absolutely.
But we do have a lot happening. I want to start with honorable mentions because there's some stuff. If you look at our top stories that was in last week's issue, they were posted last Friday. They went print last Friday.
And there were just some that we missed.
There's stuff that we couldn't fit everything. So I do want to give a quick shout. I know you had a quick shout out for one, and I have a quick shout out for one. So I'll let you go first.
Heritage Boys Hoops. I know it wasn't. The record may not have reflected how good of a season it was, but they really did have a strong season after what the year prior was.
You saw the program take strides forward.
You really saw the program.
Right.
I think the Northgate game kind of defined their season, where it's like they could hang and then
opening day.
Yeah, where they could hang, but then kind of run out of gas or whatever.
Right.
The Camp Lindo game was really eye opening because they hung around for 3.5 quarters, and I think their legs just gave out because.
I mean, and then the game against Cal, they were leading in that first. Like they were up like 11 in that first quarter.
Yeah, they're up against Cal. And then Cal comes back to win, which, I mean, they were up against Cornerstone. They were up against Antioch. I mean, you can
the one funny thing with this team, if you look at the games they were all up against, if they finish through, like, their record is completely different. I mean, the story behind that team is actually way different.
And that's why I'm kind of happy they won the playoff game, because I feel like if they were first round, it really wouldn't have encapsulated how good of a season they actually had.
It would have just been like...
Because it really was a great season. Granted, we were sick. Oh, yeah, this was the week we were sick.
This is the week we're both dying. I remember that.
I was sick and dying. We drove out to Albany to St. Mary's College Prep, and Heritage beat 3 seed St. Mary's.
Yep.
I believe in the second and third quarter, the two teams combined for not even 10 points, if I remember this correctly, or something like that. There was a quarter they combined for 6, I think. It was a weird game. No one could hit free throws.
That seems to be a thing in high school, though. Like, the quote unquote easiest shot, and it's just like backboard, rims out.
Mm-hmm.
It's so you're gonna miss a high school free throw more than you're gonna make it, and I'm kind of starting to accept that. It doesn't make sense.
Nope.
But
we need to teach them the Rick Barry. No, not the Rick Barry.
The underhand.
Yeah.
I would love to see it in a high school game. In the age of like all this like highlights and stuff, you have the one underhand toss.
Hey, if it goes in, it's gonna go in.
I mean, look, did it go in though? That is the question, right?
But shout out Heritage Boys, Coach Carter, and his guys really had a good season. It'll be interesting to see what they do this year. They did They're losing Nate, Chase, and
they're losing several guys. But they're a fairly young team. That's the crazy part about that.
They're losing
team.
a few, but at the same time, they're kind of young.
That's the interesting part, because the way that the last 2 years happened for Coach Carter, it's almost kind of not fitting, but it actually works out in the end, right?
Yeah.
He has these 2 years to get his feet wet. They take a big stride this year. Next year, not only like does the team understand the foundation? Does he have the foundation down and the system and all that kind of stuff? He also has his former freshman players coming out.
So now all your freshmen.
So it's all his.
All his former freshmen are coming out. They know the system. They know what's expected.
Right. So really, this coming year would be his first year. Was his guy? Was specifically his guys.
And they were the ones that played. Granted, Liberty didn't storm through the league like they normally did, but Heritage gave them 2 tough battles.
Right.
Pitt didn't, Freedom didn't, but Heritage, both times they played, gave them really 2 tough battles. The first game, I thought Heritage had it, and then fourth quarter.
But to me, that's
sorry, Coach.
That's really the storyline with the season, though,
yeah.
right? with Heritage Boys, right? Like,
what was really fun about the St. Mary's game was because they had to battle back in the fourth quarter. I was like, interesting.
This is kind of backwards, but they showed they could do it. But also B, like, the interesting part with them was their story really is the fourth quarter and how they just could not. I mean, several. I mean, we're talking about 7-8 games that they just kind of. I mean, 7-8 losses that could have been wins by the fourth quarter alone.
And I didn't go to this one because I was still dying. But they were in that game against Marin Catholic in the second round. If they win that game, they would have guaranteed at least a third place game.
So that was one on the road too.
Would have really been interesting to see how that dynamic would have worked out. But I mean,
it's like you see. I think with Heritage, you see it's right there.
Yeah. Would you love to win every playoff game? Absolutely. But
can you imagine Heritage went to state?
Dude,
if you think about all the blown, if you think the funniest part about this team, because you mentioned the win at St. Mary's College Prep, right? If you think about all the fourth quarters that they blew this year, and then they finally come back in the fourth quarter on the road in Albany, and then they just like flipped that script in the postseason. You know how wild that would have been.
I was just like, I couldn't understand just how much they did it. That was the one thing.
It's like we'd have podcasts about them just scratching our heads the entire time.
And it's like, why, how, who?
Just sit there, sure.
Yep, sure.
Sure.
But, I mean, it was a great way to end the season, at least. Right. Not the loss to Marin Catholic, but,
But even like when they were in the Marin Classic, like, didn't they place like second?
Top four.
They were top four, right? They didn't win it, but they were top four.
Or did they struggle on that one? I can't remember. Basketball season was so long ago.
But they had moments, and it was kind of like you saw it there.
They did have moments, and I was like, really it wouldn't have surprised me if they made state as like a lower division because they had, they just had.
That's almost like the benefit of
they had a full team where they had bigs, they had guards who could shoot, they had guards and wings who could shoot. I think, I don't know. Inexperience.
I mean, for sure. I mean, I think that's part of it for sure. Inexperience. I think you still have some of what the last regime was with the seniors.
Yeah.
No disrespect to them, but that's kind of
just kind of like Carter dealt with sometimes.
Right, and then I think now what's interesting, like this feels like the year. Like if they're gonna do anything, this is the year to do it because now it's all his guys, the guys who he started with originally at Heritage, before he stepped back and then came back to coaching.
Mm-hmm.
His underclassmen he had this year, the last 2 years. Now it's kind of like, okay, this is his team. They have the foundation. They have what he wants to do. I'm really looking forward to what they do.
I would love to see this upcoming team if they had one more year of Nate and Jace. I think that'd be good. That would set them over the top. But that's a what, that's a what if.
On the other side of it, Freedom Girls Hoops winning their first B-Bell.
That was
in an age where it's like Liberty Heritage, Liberty Heritage, Liberty Heritage. Freedom did their thing, man. Like, and it was really cool to see because this team. The interesting part with this team in covering them, like they were just insanely scrappy.
Yeah,
and that was I remember talking with the head coach Rochelle Nahara, and they're playing for one another. They're just tough. Like this was they remind me a little bit of the first year that I had the Liberty Girls team, right? In a sense where like I know they were very physical. They were very tough in the paint. They were very tough overall, right? Freedom really embodied that physicality, that sense of grit. And I think it was really cool seeing it. Let me pull up the record because God forbid we ever actually prepared.
But I think like when we made our preseason predictions going into basketball season, I don't think either of us had Freedom.
And keep in mind, they were a playoff team the year before.
Yeah,
but they were like a one and done play. I think they were like a one and done, two and done playoff team the year before.
But we're coming off what Liberty did, and, Heritage. It was kind of hard to bet against those teams, and Freedom.
Freedom this year, Freedom girls basketball this year, 19-7 in the regular season, 10-0 in league, 19-7 overall, 10-0 in league. Right, the year before, you got to keep in mind, the year before, 11-15, 5-5. The year before that, 8-16, 4-6. You talk about just
it's a big step forward.
Right, you talk about just the growth that they've had the last couple of years, and you really saw it this year.
Yeah,
right. Yves Monzon, Albival, they had several Albival girls. Like they were just really. It's funny because this team could score nothing in the first. There were games where they were shut out in the first quarter and just like exploded the rest of the way through, and it's kind of like
they just needed to get warmed up. They just needed to get warmed up after warm ups.
It'd be like that sometimes.
It really does though.
The unfortunate part is like when they lost on the road at Brentwood because like you look at the season they had and to go 1-0 in the playoffs, like that's kind of like it was interesting because like.
Well,
I remember like when after the home finale when they beat Deer Valley at home, they cut the nets down all that. This is the first time I think the program's won league, and it was cool and everything. I'm saying like I'm curious what this team does in playoffs because if you look at the body work over the season, this is a very tough team.
If they get I'm starting to remember a little bit now. They won league, they won defeated in league. They should have had a home playoff game.
And they did because they were seeded 11th.
And conveniently, they get matchup against Redwood. Who also won their league. Just very conveniently, nothing.
No. Casual.
Yeah, just,
It's okay, Redwood lost in the semis,
so but it's just like, NTS always says they want to give, if you win league, you want to host a playoff game, but then it's like, we're going to match you up against another team that won league also. I mean, it's like, huh?
Sure.
No.
Too many different
sports ball.
Too many different leagues. upper section. It's a point.
Because Redwood's in like the North Bay League. I forgot what it is.
Redwood is in the
MCal? No.
The Marin County League.
Yeah, it is MCal.
So the great Marin County League, because everything on the other side of the peninsula.
Well, that one has subdivisions, I think, too, because I think that has Cardinal Newman in it and all that, and Terralunda.
So, but they had a great season, and I wanted to make sure we started this episode by kind of shouting out the ones we couldn't get on paper, like that on page, because we want to know that those seasons were not forgotten. Like, obviously we were there.
I still have another great moment. Martin Luther King Day, the Heritage girls team beating University in the last round of the game.
Oh, with what's your name with the shot? We're gonna find. We are so prepared on this podcast. I know that was actually really
that was
cool.
one of the coolest moments of the year.
Because
if we're not gonna look at like full seasons, that was like that was
one of the coolest moments.
That was like if we're doing
you gotta put that.
If we do like top 10 plays, that's like top.
We
3
have
at least.
we have the shot. What was it? One of the camera guys. One of the camera dads, he sent me a video, and I was like, "This is so awesome."
That's easily top 3.
Was it Peyton?
Yeah,
Peyton Legito, yeah, her shot. And it's funny. I remember talking to her about it. I'm like, "When was the last time you hit a game winner?" I don't think she'd ever hit a game winner like that. And then she goes, "I just threw it up and see what happened."
She just threw it up. I remember because we were both sitting there because I was getting ready for the Heritage Boys game right after, and I was like, "That looks good."
No, because the whole sequence though, because it was also off an inbounds play.
Yeah,
it was off an inbounds play, and she gets it, and she just like launching. We're looking at it, I'm like,
the inbounds play. I remember it took a second to develop. I'm like, this is either going to be just perfect, or they're not even going to get the shot off.
Oh, it's just going to be short, right? And the next thing you know, you see it, and we're both looking at it like,
huh, that's perfect.
Like this has a chance, and it's weird because like me being pessimistic, I'm like, it's going to fall to a short watch, and it never fell short. And I'm like, it in a weird way, it was Heritage's version of the Halliburton, minus the ball bouncing up in the air.
Oh, do you know a thing or two about that?
I know a couple things about the Halliburton.
That was really cool, though. I hope...
that was awesome, honestly.
I hope BVAL hosts their mini Martin Luther King tournament again, or showcased again.
Yeah,
that was really cool.
I think, but the best part, I think for that team this year, they needed that moment.
Yeah.
Something like that. Because it wasn't...
That was a scrappy game, too. I remember I got there late.
It was. That might have been the scrappiest we saw.
I got there late. I was speeding over from Oakland.
We were both sitting there like... We were both looking like, wait, what?
I was like, wait, that looks
good. The bench just runs off at everyone. The stand's going... It was cool, man. It was super awesome. Yeah, that's probably the moment of the year.
Yeah, if we're doing like top 5 plays, that's number 1 of the year.
Yeah. I'm glad we added that now. But let's get this sounds so messed up. Let's get to those that made the list.
Smooth, very smooth.
Very smooth. Let's kind of work bottom up.
So
I guess we'll do
8 to 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll start. So number 8, I had Coach Dave Fogelstrom leading Heritage football back to the NCS semis, and then a month later leaving. And I think you have to have both sides of that storyline just because of like the significance of it. And if you think of the 5 years that he was coaching at Heritage, the last 2 years they went to the playoffs.
Yeah.
And he's had playoff teams that's through
previous. And he did that through hip pain, which is probably the most painful there is.
Oh yeah, the last year like he's going
through physical at least.
Yes. He went through a ton of hip pain. I know he didn't say anything about it from my understanding of it. So he gets them back to the semis. Something about Heritage playing semifinals in downpours. Because it happened.
I was just gonna say, did not happen again.
It did happen again. I lost my camera in that storm. Because like they were at El Cerrito and then they lost in the rain. The year prior, they lost in the rain, and then they go to Acalanes and it's just like a monsoon. I mean,
I remember because it was the same thing at Liberty when they played O'Dowd.
Right. So they had that monsoon, and I just remember like this. I'm looking at it like this felt familiar, and. I think Acalanes scored the first touch on it. Oh, it just kind of fell apart from that point.
Acalanes has guys like a lot of guys went to Power 4 schools.
They did have guys. But the interesting part came, we didn't know at the time. We didn't know about what Foggy was going through with the hip and everything. And then we were going to lunch. Yeah, we were going to Mountain Mike's before Liberty's Stonebarger tournament, and then I go, hey, by the way, they just released a press release. Because at first we're like. What was it? I think Nathan Candela from East Bay Times.
Yeah,
he tweeted it. He broke it, and then
I saw the press release like, oh hey, well there goes lunch.
And then we hit, and then you showed me, and then like obviously I knocked out the press release like during lunch because we had to, and then we get Fogarty the week after. But like, the way he explained it, it was really interesting because like if you look at the work that he did,
he really turned that program around.
He really did. I mean, Freedom. Heritage, excuse me. Was kind of an after for a while. Was a little bit of an afterthought.
His latter 3 years, they went above 500. They probably should have went to the playoffs 3 straight years, including the year they had. And I always think back to that 22 season where they had a sophomore Austin Peters. They had Devin Rivers, who was just running rampant. They had
our editor's like at the window doing everything right now, doing the absolute most.
They had Devin Rivers running. They had.
I'm glad the camera does not show the door.
They had sophomore Brooks Davis.
They had Jeremiah Ruffin.
He was on that team too.
They had dudes.
They did have dudes.
They really had dudes on that team.
And I think they couldn't beat Antioch.
The biggest thing.
I always say that was the best Brentwood Bowl I ever seen, but hands down.
The one before I got her.
Hands down, yeah. Hands down.
The one thing I've noticed the one thing that's been a thing with this team, especially the year you covered, and then like the last 2 I did, was like they would have, like last year, like they went 4-1 league. They lost to Foothill and then ripped 4 in a row, including like Smack and Livermore on the road. And you're thinking like, okay, like you watch that game, you're like, okay, this is the year, right?
Yeah.
Like they're gonna do something, gonna have a strong run in league and all this kind of stuff. They go to Deer Valley. They host Deer Valley. It was like homecoming, I think.
No, homecoming was Terralinda. Yeah. I
was
at that game.
What was the Deer Valley? It was just the league opener, probably. I thought it was something. I forget.
Filipino Heritage Night.
Heritage does that, man. To be fair, we need that. Not to be biased, we kind of need it. Walking
2 Filipino guys on the mic.
Walk in the stadium, show your ticket, get a small pack of lumpia. That'd be clutch, actually, dude. That'd be kind of clutch, actually.
You know what? Nate, you'll be getting an email from me for listening to this.
But it's interesting because, like, you look at how last year went. They lost to Foothill. They ripped 4 in a row. I mean, they looked good in those 4 games too. Played Deer Valley. Babbitt gets hurt. Everything just kind of. I mean, you get through the Deer Valley games. He's on 1-0 league, and everything kind of fell apart.
Granted, right? Austin's first start was against Pittsburgh.
But you know what? You almost don't count. In the record, you count that one and everything, but you almost like don't count that against them. But it's the game against Freedom.
No, but
hear me out.
The Pitt game was like those one where it's like you take a mental beating too.
Right. No, the confidence and everything. Yeah. I understand that, and especially against that Pittsburgh team.
Austin got smashed on a few plays. I was like, ew, that does not look good.
But like but the other 3, what you try to do is Freedom, if you look at the rest of the schedule, right? Freedom, Antioch, Liberty, right? You go to those last 3 games, you want to take 2 of the 3. Mm-hmm. Really, you want to take Freedom, Antioch, because Liberty's going to be that would be. Mm-hmm. And granted, we'll talk about the Brentwood Bowl in a second, but you look at Freedom. Did not look good against Freedom. They only won 21, and then granted they won, but they only won 21-7.
Yeah,
and it's kind of like no disrespect to Steven Rodriguez in Freedom, but like Heritage should have.
Yeah.
That should have been 35-7 easily for Heritage, for this Heritage team, right? You look at Antioch; they were in that game, and they could have beaten. They had moments to beat Antioch. They were in that game.
It's a very Heritage Antioch game,
right? No, it was though, but it's one of those things where it's like there were plays that like you watch what happened, and you kind of sitting there like something's not right here, right? And then Liberty,
you especially saw in the Brentwood Bowl,
right?
And to me, that Brentwood Bowl was the epitome of a rivalry game.
Right. I mean,
14-7 defensive game,
which is really interesting because like
they were hitting that night too.
To be fair, also like Liberty, they were hitting that night. I think Liberty also had a really bad game that game.
Yeah.
Because Sage had like 4 picks.
Yeah, but hey, defensive rivalry game.
What Austin have like 3 others?
They have the Iron Bowl. We have the Brentwood Bowl.
But that's the thing, right? Like you look at the Brentwood Bowl.
The hell. With
The
hell with the Iron Bowl.
Yeah. Let me know when Brentwood gets to kick 6.
Just don't plant the flag.
We need that.
No.
I need Heritage doing that.
No.
At Liberty.
No. No, we do not.
We need the wars happening.
No,
I need like whoever's gonna be whoever or the quarterback. Because we have 2 new quarterbacks next year for both teams. Whoever the quarterbacks, I need that no handshake type thing. And he's
You're
no
really-
handshake
you're
at the
really
50
just
at the
trying
coin
to start
toss.
fights here, aren't you?
I am trying to start wars. Okay. I'm not getting political. I'm doing jokes. I am going to refrain from that part. But honestly, like when you look at what Heritage, you think about it. If Babbitt's healthy, this team goes 4-1 in league, 3-2. I mean, I think they beat Antioch.
3-2 safely.
3-2 safely, 4-1. I think they have a better chance. I think, especially with the way Liberty played, I think they beat Liberty.
Because like if you look at their one touchdown against Liberty, it was a pass that was just thrown up, and JJ went up and got it.
Oh, the one from why am I blanking? I know what you're talking about.
Mackay, no,
Not Mackay.
odd and odd.
Not Hernandez. Not Mackay. I know who it is, not Mackay. But you think about it.
But like it's kind of like a prayer touchdown at that point.
It's kind of like launch to your best wide receiver. You know.
You know what? Not a bad idea.
You know, and go from there.
I've seen worse offensive strategies.
I think I'm very curious now to like what this team looks like going forward. You're losing a lot of key guys.
Yeah.
Right. You know, brand new quarterbacks, brand new head coach.
Yeah.
Right.
So
I'm really curious what that's gonna look like. And I think what's funny is that you built what the hardest part. Look, and focus from stepping down was for health reasons, his own health reasons. You know, I think everyone's like, you don't have to, you can still coach. But for him, and I fully respect this, like, if he couldn't do it 100%, he's not going to do it.
Right.
And the way he's been with this program, he's done everything 100%.
Yeah, he's not a half-ass kind
No,
of guy.
he's not going to do that. So I was sad to see him go because I was like, this guy's...
But you respect
it. But you understand and you respect it, right? And obviously he's doing much better now. He led Heritage Boys Golf to an undefeated season, league title.
And a hole-in-one.
At
NCS, I think it was.
So... You know, so he's obviously he's chilling, honestly.
Absolutely,
but
I see him at
he's
some
chilling,
of the baseball games still.
You know, we also met his son at the softball game. Ran for West Coast.
That's right. Yeah,
met him. He's a good dude. But yeah, I'm really curious to see what this looks like now because he built so much momentum, and for it to come to a hard stop.
I think it's too early to call it a hard stop. I get what you're saying with
but it does in a sense because like. It does in a sense.
I feel like I have to see how they play versus call before we call it a hard stop. I do get what you're saying.
Well, if you think about the momentum they built, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's where the new...
Is this kind of like the Lions firing Jim Caldwell after a 9-7 season?
But it's different when you're... But I think in that situation, it's different when you're fired compared to just stepping down.
Fair.
Because I think if Folk is healthy, he's not stepping down. Like, first off, that job's his to lose.
What is this compared to? Bill Walsh retiring too early?
Maybe. Maybe. I'd go that direction maybe with it.
Yeah, like I mean,
you know, I would love to see one more year and kind of see what this looks like, especially with a brand new roster.
Yeah.
You know, and see what they do.
Oh, this is like Dick Vermeil's first head coaching job.
With the Eagles?
Yeah.
When he came out, that in the 80s?
Well, he stepped down because he just couldn't do it anymore.
Oh, he was
burned
gassed,
out.
and then he somehow ended up back in St. Louis.
It kind of fits here.
What was it, St. Louis and then Casey?
Yeah.
He went to Casey, right?
Yeah, he was Trent Green's coach. That's right.
That was his guy.
Oh, when the Chiefs were poverty, God.
When the Chiefs were poverty, jeez.
What a time.
Oh, what a time to be alive. But yeah, I'm curious and kind of scared to see what happens with Heritage this year because I just don't know what it looks like. They open at James Logan.
Who the hell went there?
Okay, son. You know, only great ones go to the mighty James Logan High School in Union City. But at the same time, while Heritage had a great season, so did Liberty.
Liberty did. We
got to go to that.
They got back to the NTS playoffs. Funny enough, so I put this in my story. After going 7-3 and 4-1 the year prior, they make the playoffs a year later, going 7-3 and 4-1 in league.
Because sure,
it was very.
That was the funniest part when
nothing changed.
When everything came out, that was the funniest thing. They're like, they weren't good enough, but they went to the D2 bracket.
However, yes, and I do like Cable's approach to this season, where it's like they didn't let us in. Let's just book a ridiculously hard schedule and just.
He booked a playoff schedule.
You know what? I respect it. You booked.
Los Gatos.
Well, hold on. Frontier, I believe, was the defending state champs. I can't remember. Frontier is always in the mix for state. They won it. They won it. Funny. I'll get to that later though. Los Gatos always in it. one of the best Bay Area schools.
Mm-hmm.
Tracy, one of the best, one of the higher level teams.
That Tracy game was something else.
Amador Valley, who funny enough played Frontier in the state title game, which was, probably not funny for Liberty to see come this season. And then they finished up at Clayton Valley. They went 3-2 in non-league. Granted, they probably should have won that Clayton Valley game. Some things happened. But then they went 4-1 in league. The only loss being to Pittsburgh, who kind of rubbed it in a little sideways, which
we'll get to.
Granted. Then they played Vintage out of Napa in the opening round.
Yep.
Stomped them. Jackson ran wild. And then they kind of laid an egg in...
Well, I mean, they lost by 8, but...
The first half was just weird. Like, they started the game with a fumble on the kickoff.
When you start a game, like the interesting thing in football, especially, like when you start a game on such a turnover, like open the game with a turnover like that.
I think like baseball, you start with a strikeout. That doesn't exactly encapsulate what the game's going to be. But I feel like if you start with a fumble,
it's such a momentum shift.
It really encapsulates how the rest of the game.
It's such a momentum shift when you do that. 3-2 in league. I mean, the Tracy game was really fascinating because
4-1 in league.
I mean, non-league. Excuse me, non-league.
Yeah.
3-2 in non-league. That's what I meant.
Tracy game was interesting. They ran the wishbone, right? The triple
Tracy
option.
runs the triple option, and it's funny because Tracy had him in the first quarter.
Yeah.
And then Liberty adjusted, and Tracy could not figure it out. And that was the first of near many fights between. It's funny because there were things that happened between I think Tracy was trying to start a fight with Liberty coaches after the game.
Seipel, Liberty strength and conditioning guy, told me some things after the game. What happened after the game? I was like, oh.
After Tracy?
Yeah, and I was like, okay.
Right. They were saying some things. It was but the interesting part of the Tracy game was it was good to see how that defense adjusted because I think one of the bigger questions that I think we had was really on the defensive side.
And that defense was good.
Liberty's defense was really good.
Once they got Zaire Calhoun back, that defense was really good. Granted, I mean, you saw it throughout the season. Granted, they let a freshman walk them off against Clayton Valley. Besides the point. Anyway, sorry, Coach, don't kill me. But they went up against Tristan Tia, one of the best quarterbacks in the Bay Area, and really helped. They didn't hold him down against Amarillo, but they did enough to win. This is this year's schedule. Hold on.
The Amarillo game was interesting.
Because they were down 2 scores at half.
Yeah,
most
at halftime, and then he came back to win.
Week 4? Was I at Heritage?
1, 2, 3, 4. You were at
Heritage.
I think you were at Heritage.
Okay, got to watch the exciting Heritage ass kicking of Terra Linda. Culture.
I don't remember why you were at Heritage. I think I was dying.
Homecoming.
I think I was dead that week.
You were at Freedom Homecoming.
Was I at Freedom Homecoming? Mm-hmm. I was at Freedom Homecoming because I had to.
They came back and beat Amador, which was the signature win, and then the Clayton Valley lost. They probably should have won that one, but again, they got Zaire back. You really saw the defense play well.
But it's interesting though if you didn't know those 2 weeks, Clayton and Amador, how they kind of came back and almost walked off. Pretty much just about walked off at Amador, and then the week after the Clayton Valley.
Yeah, the Clayton Valley game. I think is when Sage got hurt. He got smashed like Leonard Marshall against Montana. Mm-hmm. Like blindside smashed.
And then he just wasn't the same.
And he wasn't the same after that. Granted, they just kept putting up points. The defense gave up no more than 20 points, albeit Pittsburgh, the rest of the season.
Right.
Even against Bishop O'Dowd, they gave up 23. You gave up 23, that's kind of winnable.
No, it is. If you look at the league schedule, the only, and granted, and that's why I say Pittsburgh's the anomaly because it's that Pittsburgh's
that was an anomaly team.
They were winning. They were in it for state.
It was an anomaly team.
So that's kind of you don't count that one.
Cable was suspended the week after that Pitt game. Going into the Freedom game.
He was suspended.
He was suspended.
And it's funny because when he came back for the Brentwood Bowl at Heritage, you see him with the trophy, just walking up like he just got out of jail. It was the greatest thing. And I was like, this is awesome.
I will say, from a guy not from the area, Cable has fully thrown himself into the Brentwood Bowl rivalry and the culture of Liberty.
Cable has Liberty aura.
He does. From a guy from not from.
He's not from East County.
He's from the peninsula.
Right.
And he's just
opposite.
Fully thrown himself into the Liberty culture, and I love it. It kind of reminds me what Partridge did a little bit.
Right.
This is Cable's twist on it.
Right.
Let me tell you something. Cable can give a speech, and you're ready to run through a wall.
Cable could say 3 words and ready to run through a wall. We've interviewed him several times. I'm just kind of like, let me know when to go, coach.
Right. Tell me when to go.
Right.
But, I mean, you can't... Is it a disappointing season? You can kind of say that. The loss to O'Dowd. Because I know they were all looking forward to a rematch with Amador.
I feel like it was a disappointing season in a sense where they know they could have gotten further.
Yeah.
It's kind of like what could have been. Right?
Everyone knew this team could have easily went to state playoffs.
Oh yeah, I mean especially with the bracket they had.
Yeah.
Because Liberty they were number 1 seed, right?
Yeah, they were the top seed. They hosted Bishop O'Dowd, but the O'Dowd game, it was just weird.
It was raining like
awful weather. It was freezing.
Man, y'all in cold, man. Just I don't get it. Like y'all.
If my blood is not boiling and it's not triple digits, it is cold.
Then temperature drops below 90 degrees. You start seeing the fur coats come out.
Yeah. Let me tell you something. But I mean,
you know, to say better in Brentwood.
But this Liberty team this year is bringing back a lot of the defense, I think, except for Chris Joe and Zaire Calhoun. Yeah. But I think other than that, they're bringing everyone else back.
I mean, I think that's going to be the biggest part because the last 2 years the defense was really young, and that was one of the biggest
that was concerns. The issue in 23.
Right, that was one of the biggest concerns. Yeah. Was defense so young, secondary so young, front 7, and I think now you have all that experience. I think on the flip side of it, now you have a young offense.
With
relatively,
Jackson Bell.
You have Jackson Bell, but if you look at the rest of it, like before, you had the last 2 years, you kind of had to stay at quarterback, right? Yeah. You had a number 1 wideout. With last year's Chris Joe, the year before that was Ryan McKendry, right? Jackson's still kind of mainstaying in his senior year, and I mean, he's going to be the featured. I mean, I don't see where he's not the featured guy.
He might rush for 2,000 yards this year,
right? The line, I have a couple questions. I think, you lost a lot the last few years.
It's Liberty.
But they have guys,
They're
right?
They're corn-fed. It's fine.
It's true.
Like Country Strong.
Got them Country Strong corn-fed boys,
Yeah, we're like Nebraska.
I know it's funny. I never thought of it that way. And that's pretty much what it's true. But I am curious from the experience standpoint because you really had an experienced O-line really the last 2 years. And to not have from an experience standpoint, I'm really curious what this looks like now.
I thought this was interesting. It's like you lost. I think you're losing 9 people from last year's team, which on a football team that you'll kind of take.
Nothing.
You'll take that,
but you're losing a big 9 guys.
The 9 you're losing is your starting safety, your starting linebacker, your starting left tackle, your starting quarterback.
You're losing a guard, I think. Also,
starting guard, I think starting corner also. Right. So you're losing. Where you're losing people is the most key positions.
Yeah, you're losing guys, but you're losing your main guys essentially, right?
You're losing a Mike linebacker, a starting safety, a quarterback, and a left tackle. Those are probably the first 4 positions that you.
But you think about it now. It's going to be interesting. When you think after this year, you're losing Jackson Bell, you're losing David Calkins, you lose.
This is true.
Those are your 2 top guys going into this year too.
It's really funny that the 4 positions they've lost going into this coming season. Those are probably the first 4 positions you look to upgrade if you're starting from scratch.
Right.
Which is kind of funny.
So it's really, I'm just fascinated what it's going to look like. I especially with the O-line and a new quarterback. They had Cliff Seed, a new quarterback. I think he was thrown at the Cal camp.
They always say, give the ball to DK, no, give the ball to Jackson. Let him run.
Are you trying to make Jackson do Booby Miles?
If he can rush for 2,000 yards.
Hey, halfback pass. And he can pass.
They did do that.
Fair,
they did do that.
To be fair.
They did do that.
To be fair, Jackson can. I'm really curious, but I think because I think the last couple of years we had an idea of what Liberty would look like, right?
Yeah.
And I think going into 2025, there's no. I feel like there's more question marks than there was a year ago.
I don't think.
Well, I think. So. Well, maybe the question marks are flipped. Right. So now you have the experience.
It's same question marks, different areas. I think.
Right.
So
I'm just curious what quarterback's gonna look like because I mean, you still. I feel like you're still trying to find the one after.
Liberty's really confident going into the season.
They're
really
granted.
Confident, so I mean,
but also you're kind of going. It's like you want Sage to be like the next Nate Bell, not the next Nate Bell, but like the guy after, so to say.
Yeah, to kind of keep the.
It's almost like
kind of like what the.
It's almost like they made Sage Jeff Garcia.
Kind of like what the Packers do.
I mean, yeah,
you want that ideally, but
right. You almost.
You know what?
It felt more like the Niners.
You know what?
You know what?
That comparison fits a lot. The Niners comparison.
No,
fits
but hear me
a lot
out, right?
more than
Because
it should.
what's his name?
Butterfield
was Montana.
Yep.
Bella was Young.
Steve.
And then, like, technically, Sage was Jeff Garcia. So does that mean? Oh God, I'm gonna hate this. Does that mean whoever the next guy is? Which Alex Smith is he?
Giovanni Carmazzi.
God bless that guy.
No, I'm sorry.
Not Giovanni Carmazzi. Don't do that.
No, I mean,
we apologize for the comments.
But you gotta think, like, Alex Smith wasn't bad. He just had bad coaching.
First off, he had 4 or 5 different coaches before he got Harbaugh.
And the one that he had success with, they shipped him off.
I mean,
immediately after.
Because culture.
What was his name? The guy who went to Chargers. Norv Turner. That's what it was. That Niners comparison actually works a lot better.
It does, but it reminds me a lot of that, right? Like
pocket passing quarterback that leads you to a title.
Running quarterback that
runs for his life and is great.
And then like the guy who can kind of do. I mean, Sage is more of a pocket guy, really matter, but I mean,
scrappy quarterback.
He's scrappy, right?
Sage, if you go to San Jose State, I got questions because isn't that where Jeff?
I loved it when San Jose State. Trust me.
Isn't that where Garcia went?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which can only mean Sage is on his way to the CFL. He follows the Garcia path. Go Stamps.
All right. Great start.
But yeah, I'm actually more anxious to what this looks like now. About it.
It's really funny. We've come with a comparison for everything, every like top moment we've had so far.
It's fitting, if you ask me.
Yep. Next up,
on the girls' side,
Heritage, Liberty, girls flag.
So let's preface this. This is flag football has been on for about 2 years. Varsity flag football has been on for 2 years, right?
This is easily the top 3 sport to cover. Easily.
Oh, this is one of the top 3, yeah, for sure. Also because we got to cover it from the ground up. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
The first game, historically, since the beginning of time in girls flag football, Heritage smoked Liberty in that debut game in 23, right? In fall 23.
Yes.
So Liberty bounced back.
Malzahn took that personal.
Forget personal. Malzahn took it. Malzahn was like, he was trying to get Heritage to fold their program in that first B-Val title game.
Yeah.
They come back, win 52-6. Going 24, Liberty smokes Heritage twice. At Heritage and at home.
You know, it really felt like Liberty just couldn't be stopped.
Oh, this year's team especially.
Their only loss was the San Juan Valley, and like they just were clicking on all cylinders. They were nationally ranked. They were 23, I want to say.
They were like top 15 actually at one point.
Very, very fun to watch.
Right.
Very fun to watch. And then we talked about it a little bit. You know, we don't want to dampen the win for Heritage against Liberty in the playoffs, but like it was very weird that one team had to go from hot to cold back to hot.
Right.
And then one team could just stay hot the whole time. That's the one thing I didn't understand. But other than that, like, I get it. It's the second year of the sport. It's like they're still figuring everything out. There's no state. Now there is, but there wasn't last year.
It's interesting because, like, so you go to that playoff game. You know, Heritage wins. Heritage wins 18-13. In that game, like Liberty just had nothing going for them. Like everything they wanted to do. It was like
you kept waiting. Like, okay, this is the drive. Okay, this is the drive. Okay, this is the drive. The drive never came.
Right. And then with Heritage, they kind of like slowly chipped away at the Liberty too. And now it's very interesting because like, we talk in girls flag football because
I think
the thing with the girls game, it is more skewed towards the offense.
Yeah.
And granted, we say it about the men's game and the boys game in general. But it really is more of an offensive game, right?
Because like your center can go out and catch a pass.
You can't not even just that. It's just the way
you can't really like bump the receivers.
You can't bump the receivers. You know, if you look at the 5-yard buffer zone, you can run the ball fairly easily. Not easily, but like if you have the right scheme and everything. And I think like Heritage had to eat with Eden and Noru.
Yeah.
You know, like there was one, I thought like in that game, in the playoff, I thought in the first 2 games they did a great job containing Eden. Because like, she's really the thing with Noru, she's a good breakaway runner.
Yeah.
But she's not gonna she's not east to west. She's very north south.
Yeah.
Right.
She's got to get.
But once
going.
she gets through, she's through. And I think they did a great job in that second game, in the playoff game. For whatever reason, they had issues really containing her.
I think
If I
it was
remember
like
right?
going from hot to cold to hot.
Right.
They just didn't look awake. Granted, Heritage did kind of take the momentum by getting a stop and then going down and immediately scoring.
Right.
So that kind of sucks every life out of you.
They did a great. I mean, that they did a great job in that playoff game, and then we go to the game at Cal. No.
Yes.
Yeah.
The NCS site was at Cal Hayward, Alameda. Which who they lost to?
Alhambra.
No, Alhambra was the game before. I think it was Alameda they lost to, because they had that quarterback, that spitting image of Big Ben.
Oh, right. No. It wasn't.
Dude, the way she moved and like the way she threw, it was like watching prime Big Ben. The arm motion was really what like
the wind up, the size and all that. But she could
ball.
Was shifty.
She was a catcher, right?
She was weirdly, I think.
Someone said she was a catcher, I think.
She was weirdly shifty.
She could ball. I don't know your name, but you could ball.
We're doing a great job with this podcast so far.
Absolutely.
No, we're definitely hitting the hot and cold streaks. Yeah, we're definitely. Yeah, so Heritage lost to Alameda.
Yeah, it was Alameda.
Lost to Alameda.
She
Alhambra beat Cal.
Yeah.
I'll be honest though. If you look at last year in general, that Alhambra team was awesome to watch. Yeah.
We got their
last
early.
second wins too.
We got their early. We were watching like, wow, this like Alhambra's like a 13 seed or something like that. It's like, wow, this is scrappy. I do think there will be some tweaks coming up to the playoff format, I think, but like, it's the second year. You can't really be pissed like you would in basketball or baseball.
No, I think
because it's like
the first couple
year.
years like that, but I think the fact that it kind of the way you went from like the NCS tournament to now you have a proper postseason, and the way it's kind of continuing to grow, I think is a great thing.
Because like with other sports, you can kind of like, okay, this is what this state does or this section does. With this, you don't have that. Everyone's kind of learning as they're going too. Kind of just throwing stuff on the wall and hoping it sticks.
I mean, competitive equity. So making sure the NCS listens to this pod. But yeah, no, I thought Heritage. I mean, Heritage was very interesting this year. They weren't the most consistent team, but they made it. But they made their moments count.
They were able to pick up wins when they needed to. And
they did,
and I think that's the biggest thing.
And I think you saw that. You saw that sense of grit. Saw that sense of being opportunistic. You saw that in the game against Liberty. I will say now, if the rivalry in its fullest wasn't there before, it's there now.
So hear me out. Comparison. Niners-Rams 22, 23?
Oh.
The year the Rams went to the Super Bowl?
22.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the Niners swept them in the regular season and then lost to them in the playoffs.
When the Rams when they went to the Super Bowl against Cincinnati?
Yeah.
Yeah,
20. Swept them in
21 into 22, but yeah.
Niners swept them, them being Liberty, and then the Rams won it when it mattered. Sorry, Niners fans, that's what happened.
And remember who dropped the pick in that NFC title thing?
Remember who beat this Niners team in 23? Ooh, some lonely team from Cleveland.
Browns fans just y'all need anything to clinch on, huh?
That day was the greatest. That was the greatest day of my life. What do you want from me, man?
Oh, I believe it. Trust me. But yeah, we talked earlier about with the Brentwood Bowl having the flags run out.
Yeah,
I would love to see the girls do that.
Yeah,
because I think between the two, it'd be the girls' side that does that. Mm-hmm. The one thing I remember talking with London when we had a London shut on the pod last week, and I told her the one thing I like. I didn't cover a lot of girls' sports beforehand, right? Mm-hmm. The reason we do a lot of it here now is because it just wasn't done before.
Yeah.
And there've been great storylines. The flag football stuff's been great. The basketball stuff's been really cool to cover. And obviously we'll get to the softball in a little bit. But the coolest thing is the way that the girls have made their specific sport theirs.
Yeah.
If you think about the boys' side, there's so much history rooted that like it does feel like a business, right?
Yeah.
Football, baseball, basketball, it does feel very business-like. Whereas the girls, like, I'm not saying it's not business-like in their own end because like they're going for scholarships.
They feel more loose about it.
It's more, but they have more fun. They're more in the moment.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the coolest part about this was you see, especially with flag football, they've really made it their own.
Yeah.
And it's been so fun to see that. On
to the next, Liberty Baseball. Liberty Baseball. 4-4 start the season, and then you're.
Can we talk about the whole journey as this? You went through the whole journey as this,
absolutely.
Right? Okay.
4-4 start the season. Your head coach gets suspended. You're playing in a tournament, and you're playing in the Law Miranda tournament. You just lost Akalani is pretty bad. He's going to play Camp Lindo, another top program. Camp Lindo doesn't want to play, right? Camp Lindo didn't want to play Liberty 1.
So what happened was, so Lumber in the tournament, they go to Campo, and it was like we still had like we had a little bit of a stormy week. It was like the last time we got rain ever here.
Yeah.
Imagine rain, rain.
Camp Lindo didn't want to play, right?
No, Camp Lindo, Liberty was kind of like what is happening. Campo was like, oh, we're ready to play. I think their thing was because Liberty's coming off like back-to-back losses. They just got smacked by Acalanes at home, right? Mm-hmm. So Campo was like trying to kick a horse when it's down, pretty much. And that was like their mindset going in. So Campo, so they have like an hour-long rain delay. And like, oh, Campbell's
There's
like, we
nothing more American than a rain delay.
Campbell's like, we want to play. All right, bet. They play. Rain Miller leads off with a de facto inside the park home run because it's a triple, and he scored on an error. And that set the tone for the rest of the way, right? Jake Fark throws the complete game. I think his first complete game.
Complete game one run, I think?
Complete game one hitter. Yeah, complete game one run. They beat Campo 3-1. They go the next round, they win. They pretty much win 11 in the tournament.
They go 14-3, I believe it was. 12-3, 14-3 the rest of the season.
Yeah.
They lost. They dropped 3 games, including the playoff game to Foothill. But I mean,
and one game to Heritage.
Yeah, I mean, you swept Pitt to really get back in the league race. I think that series really.
The Pitt game was really.
That really got them back into the league race because they were. You're gonna pick up wins against Antioch and Deer Valley, but it was how the top 4 teams did against each other was how it was going to determine everything. And for Liberty to almost win league undefeated was just eye-opening after the start they had. And I remember Lonzo said, we just guys had to mature on the fly, kind of, because
and they did. I think
the league MVP was a sophomore.
And I think the thing that we forgot about this Liberty team was the fact they are relatively young.
Yeah, they're.
We didn't young. Think. I mean, it's something we haven't thought about for a while because I remember when I first got here, it's when they had David Robertson, all those guys. Yeah. Josh Rhodes. They had like their veteran guys. You never thought about this team being young, but this year. You almost kind of as the year went on, you kind of reminded this is a very, very young team.
It's a really young team.
Sophomore
Chase Formosa won league MVP. Mm-hmm. He got the ball last day of the season to win league on the bump. So I mean, it's bright for this team. I mean, I know
really is,
they lost to Foothill. Foothill is a Brandon Crawford's alum, right? Mm-hmm. Crawford won there, so it's a great baseball school. But I mean. One bad inning really did them in, and you think that inning doesn't happen. It's a lot different of a game.
That seems to be, and most baseball games can be like that.
Yeah.
You avoid a bad inning,
Cough, Giants. Sorry, anyway.
What's interesting about this team is they're just so. It seems really a lot more set up than I think
they really
we've
just
talked
won
about.
A hell of a run. Comparison. This is something like the early 2010s Cardinals would do. Like they would just hang around.
Kind of. You could make that case.
I don't want to say 2019 Nationals because they didn't win it all. That's the only thing.
Right. No, the Cardinals run. I think the Cardinals comparison kind of makes sense with this team. I just think what I'm curious now is how they build off of this, right? Because you think about when they won it in 22, then Heritage came out pretty much, but Heritage came up and took it the next 2 years.
Yeah.
Granted, Liberty had their issues the last 2, especially 24.
It's very funny going to the Heritage Field and seeing they have all their league things on the backstop. Mm-hmm. There's a couple of years missing now.
But I think it does kind of build a rivalry between the two programs.
So, absolutely.
There's so much depth with that.
I feel like this 2-game series they played to end the season, and basically it turned into de facto title games. I feel like that added just new layers of this rivalry. Which
to me also now, I missed the B-Val tournament. And I wish the B-Val tournament determined the league winner.
Hines, Ahonen, Nate, I'm telling you, top 4 winners, championship game.
Top 4 3-game series.
That I wouldn't hate.
The drama would be insane, right?
I wouldn't hate that.
You could have back-to-back days, but then if you win, do it in college,
or do a double Elam bracket like college. Yeah, just do a 14 double Elam.
If you win game, if you split series, if you lose game 1, win game 2, then game 3 is 30 minutes after, because JUCO does that.
Yeah,
I remember in 2010 with Aloni. 2010, Aloni did it against Chabot.
Liberty did that, yeah.
So
or
LMC,
yeah.
So I think
one of my alma maters.
I think that would be a great thing.
Or if you don't want to do the 3-game series, at least do a 4-team double Elam bracket.
I think that makes sense. I like that. I would like that.
Something like that.
You know, and to me, because the league, like, the league winner, then you have a tournament. I get the confusion with it.
We just want more drama.
But you know what? I would say the league winner, like, if you win league, you're the number one seed for the tournament.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's the way it was. Don't get me wrong, right? You have home field, all that kind of stuff.
So that's what I'm saying. This league tournament fits because your regular season B-Val gets 2 bids, except for football. Your regular season champ is 1 bid. Your tournament champ is the other bid.
You clinch playoffs, but the tournament champ. The tournament champ should be the higher bid.
Yes. It's almost like with college basketball where it's like, you are, okay, yes, you have the at-large. The at-large team.
But you won the Pac-12 tournament, for example.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right. No, I think that you can do a lot.
About the Pac-6.
Don't get me started on that. But yeah, no, I'd like to see it go. I think the Heritage Liberty game, the de facto title game, was kind of fun, and seeing Liberty almost kind of blow it was really interesting.
No, it made you think a little.
It
made you worry. Made you, it was hot, so you were sweating anyway. I was the same age.
Yeah. But it was kind of, and then with Heritage on the other side of it, it was kind of, the way it ended was really disappointing, because this team was really strong all freaking year, right?
They're really consistent all year long.
They're consistent all year, and then like that last game to just not have it the way they did, and especially coming off the win at Liberty, considering they kind of really they shut that lineup down the way they did.
Because you won at their place, so you think, all right, we got momentum coming back to our place,
right?
But I feel like it's more of a testament to Liberty,
and it was it's the Liberty took it personal,
yeah.
And I thought that was fun to see.
So. Lonsdale's got something going. Kevin Brandon's got the Heritage program. They're always
he's got that locked. Yeah, they're always good.
It's great to see Lonsdale's got that program back to really.
It's good to see both of them in the mix. I think. Yeah. And with the shout out, we'll get to Freedom baseball in a second. But like with that shout out, Freedom also had a good year in the B-Val. Well, not in league, but they had a good year overall. We'll get to that.
It's a little tease.
A little bit of a tease. Moving forward. We got to talk about the speedster. We had her on the podcast last week, London Shed. The first Liberty female track athlete to compete in state in the history of Liberty High School.
So Liberty's been around for I don't know how many years.
Well, I remember reading the letters from 1780 about
something like that.
But to break that, and it's interesting, like when we had her on, like talking to her last week and talking to her about this and her journey and everything. Let's go over a couple things first. Okay, so. Goes to NCS, takes second. Takes second in the 100. She took second in 100 to qualify. Mm-hmm. She took second in 200 to qualify. She set the new school record for the 100 meter dash at 11:84, 200 meter dash at 24:78, and just because for the heck of it, she held the record and she set the record in the long jump at 18 feet, 3.25. So, like I prefaced her in the beginning, or like I set her up in the beginning. She is faster than a speeding bullet and can leap long distance in a single bound in the region. Because when she got to state,
state's a whole
different game.
State's a whole new beast, though. It's almost like Texas, because SoCal just got so much talent down there with anything. And a lot of the people that run track, granted this is girls, but like a lot of people that run track are like the football players.
Right.
So I know, like
Right. So so that was kind of cool, but I think if you think about it, she did this as a sophomore.
Yeah.
Right? I'm talking about a freshman campaign. She had a really good freshman campaign too, and then but which the way she explained it, and you'll see it in my feature on her this week in this week's print issue.
W plug,
where she talks about like as a freshman, she was always winning. She was dominant ever since she was dominant ever since she hopped on the track.
As soon as I stepped on the court, they all just fell over.
The minute my first spike hit the track, it was a wrap.
Do they run on spikes?
Yeah.
Really?
You're not running on flats.
Knowledge. Running sandals.
Can you imagine that?
Dude.
That'd be a great power walk, 100 meter dash power walk in slides.
Hey,
that'd be great.
That's how you get ready for them walking in the other countries.
Did you see off topic? I think it was mile split. No, flow track. They did a video of like the senior citizen 100 meter dash.
Yes.
Oh, it was so great. They were moving, man. I'm telling you something.
But I mean, first in school.
The first in school history is dope.
Ridiculous.
I remember because like her mom's the one that hit us up about it.
Yeah.
So I had no idea. Again, we don't do a lot of track, but I had no idea. But you mentioned like what was it 2 days before that, like last Wednesday when we recorded, how like she's doing it in the biggest track events, the 100 and 200.
Oh yeah. So like it's not like obviously the 100 and 200 meter like the biggest eye attention, the eye grab or whatever.
Right.
It's not like she's doing, and no discredit to people who run the 2000, the 2600, or anything like that. But that's just
God bless them.
But it's just first off, yes. But it's not like how people know the 100 and 200 meter. Like Usain Bolt's a common household name.
Right.
Noah Lyles now, and to do it in like the most popular races is just phenomenal. And it's as a sophomore finishing second in NCS and then going to state. That's
like I feel like last 2 years, last 2-3 years, it was like Eden Inoue from Heritage, who was like the big female, the big girls track star here, right? And dominant. She went to state, did her thing, right? But she's like the dominant. And I think like I feel like probably London maybe the next one up when you think about this, right? She's already she's a sophomore. But the interesting part, what she was mentioning, I was bringing this up to earlier, is that she was so dominant her freshman year that she was winning everything, placing first, second, and then like when she was, her words, she wasn't taking it seriously, and then she placed fifth in Meet the Champions in NCS. She placed fifth and didn't qualify for state, and she goes like, "What happened?" And it was like the big wake up call. So I feel like now with that experience behind her,
now you're like fully taking this seriously.
Now it's kind of out, but now she's seeing the results, right? So like, I feel like her going to state, her making her state debut,
and just seeing what it takes.
Even
to
if
win
like
there.
look, she plays I think 18th in the 100, like 23rd in a two, right? Time wise,
yeah.
She's still like, but her times were close to what she did in NCS,
yeah,
which goes to say what's up with SoCal.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? To be fair,
I think that's eye opening. It's like, hey, this is what I got to do.
Right. So now she's seen it, and I think someone like her talking to her and getting to know her story and reading and seeing all this. Okay, the experience is going to help her next 2 years.
Yeah.
Like we're looking at really one.
You're looking at something.
We're looking at the next big one. I think
next big one too.
But it was cool. Hell of an interview. It was a real fun interview. But it was cool. Staying with Liberty because
another first.
God forbid.
Another first.
Liberty off the state. Liberty Boys hoops.
Liberty Boys, their first state bid in program history. It was a long, I don't want to say long rebuild, but it was a long process to get to this past season. Hines took it over. The program was 2-24. He's kind of clawed the program out of.
You know how
gutters.
crazy that is, and also we had to talk about him stepping down.
Yes. So Hines coming into the season said it would be his last. Granted, as the season kind of went on, you saw him take more of a backseat, more of like an assistant, and let new head coach Rich Morton kind of run things. But I mean, for Hines just to run it for this long and just to even get it to this point, because I remember missing an NCS title, and not making state were the two things that ate at him. I remember talking to him about. So to get the program here and be on the coaching staff still all happened. It's not like. It's not like when Barry Bonds retired and the Giants won the World Series 3 years later.
If you look at the body of work that he's done with this program, especially in the last several years, how dominant this program has been. I mean, with 4 straight undefeated seasons.
4 straight. They've won 37 straight.
37 straight league games.
Year, but 4 straight years.
You look at the players that they put out, how dominant they've been up and down the court, right?
You got
and you and I talked even before Rich got here, even before Morton got here, like.
And now what you really see is you really have. So yes, they had good players. Now you're starting to see these good players start to continue playing at the JUCO level of the college level and start getting more looks. And I feel like that's the culmination of a program taking big steps forward. Granted, the SRV loss did not go the way anyone wanted it to.
It didn't go anything close to it.
However, 2 days prior, they went down to Fresno and beat up on Clovis kids. So there's that also. Well, they came back down to 22.
Fresno won a Tuesday.
Tuesday night school night with no bus.
Fresno with no bus is.
I think they took the vans. I can't remember though.
Oh, they had to be. It's the LUHSD. It has to be something.
So I mean, they didn't win an NCS title. They did go to state though. They did upset the 3 seed, which I mean.
That was pretty big. No one saw that coming.
Not many people had Liberty winning that outside of.
Everyone's like, they're going to Fresno on a Tuesday. It's a long drive. It's a school night.
Most people thought, okay, cool, Liberty made it. That's great.
Right.
No one expected them to go down there and win it. I remember talking to Hines after the game. He called it the biggest win in program history. Like they
completely
battled
get that.
down 18. I'm pretty sure at halftime the speech was something like, "We did not come all the way down here to get our asses kicked."
Pretty much.
If I had to bet what words were said, it was something like that.
I think it's a bit more vulgar, but yes.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
But we also, I think, in talking about Liberty's road to state, we got to talk about Hines' success overall, right? He's stepping down after 20 years almost with this program.
Damn near 20 years.
And you think about it, this program was 2-24.
He's been around the block. I remember him talking like he just couldn't get kids. He couldn't get kids that could play basketball to even come to Liberty.
Right.
And then I think it was 11-12 was the team that really
kind of started setting
that really
in motion.
turned things. And then 2018, the first BVAL title, they won it undefeated. It's just a lot of accomplishments for him over his tenure, and I think this, while he is stepping back from coaching, he's not leaving Liberty or retiring.
No, he's still AD.
But I feel like this was kind of like this past season was kind of like a good
farewell.
Yeah.
Good send off, so to say.
In a sense.
But I do like the fact that like the way he steps back at a time we've seen the program start to hit really big heights, right? I think the state getting to the state quarterfinals, like. That's the bar.
Yeah.
And we talked with Morton afterwards, and he pretty much said, this is the bar.
This is
the bar
now.
going forward.
This is the bar now. So, I mean, they have a lot of young talent. Dante Vigil's going to be a senior. And
yeah.
Jaden Miller's going to be a junior. God, I'm old.
But yeah, you have your two guards already set.
And they had size.
They got size coming up.
They had size coming up. So that'll be really interesting to see what the
team's going to be good. Like, it's really, we talked a lot about Heritage and how they're kind of growing. Like, this Liberty team, this Liberty team, to me, feels like what Pittsburgh football is in the B-Val.
Yeah. That's exactly how it is. Granted, you did see them tested a bit more this past year in league.
Right.
But I feel like it's not necessarily because like Liberty's dropping in standards or play, but it's more so teams are like wanting to be that one team.
Everyone's trying to come up. Right.
Because like when a team ends the streak, they're going to storm the court. It's going to be like...
So let me ask you this then. If you were to take bets on any of the 6 B-Val teams that were taken, you think we Heritage on next step?
Heritage. Not only are they crosstown rivals, which only adds layers to it, I think... They just have one of the best all-around teams to do it. However, I would say Freedom is a close second.
I was going to say
very close second.
I feel like Freedom is like the sleeper team in this because
Freedom. That's the first game not so much, but the second game very close.
Right. Once they started to get system down, I think you saw with Freedom, you kind of saw that points through the year. It was like, okay, they're kind of starting to get, and they are an insanely young team. Yeah. That entire situation was just brand new.
Yeah.
Everything.
Brand new coach, brand new
coach,
players,
brand new roster.
Damn near.
Right.
So,
that was a very brand new situation.
I think Heritage won, Freedom a very, like, 1B.
Freedom's like I was going to say 1B.
1B.
So here's the question I have for you then. Where does Pittsburgh fit in this? Because I remember like 2 years ago, like, it looked like it was going to be
I believe Pittsburgh graduated their last players
from
that
over.
Team. They did hire former Liberty assistant, Jared Martin.
Okay.
So that'll be interesting to see how that goes.
Boo that man.
It's very funny to see like Hines' assistants and them getting jobs in the B-Val. The Pitt coach before Jared Martin was a Hines assistant, and Antioch.
So Hines is the coaching tree.
Yes, correct.
Essentially,
except at Heritage and Freedom.
I mean, you can go anywhere else except for these 2 schools.
I mean, phenomenal run for the boys.
No, it was a great one, honestly.
Say enough about it. It'll be interesting to see how Hines handles himself, not being even on the coaching staff.
Oh man, I'm telling you something. That's the crazy thing. Like I don't see him. It's hard to see him not coach.
Yeah.
And I could he's done it for so long, but he's
just one of those people you just can't envision not doing it.
Right. That'll be interesting. Him not coaching to be. And just him just sitting in the stands or on the sidelines.
So what is this, like the 2013 Warriors? When they beat the Nuggets in the playoffs? Got a taste?
Kind of.
Young backcourt?
Young backcourt, true.
Okay.
Young backcourt, you got size. Yeah, close to it. I mean, Jaden starts hitting threes from mid-court. Imagine.
Yeah, this works. Yeah, this comparison works.
Not they just catch and shooting.
Yep, this works. Yep.
Makes sense.
Yep,
it makes sense. But speaking of Freedom, we got to talk Freedom baseball, softball. Is that our number 2 story?
Yeah.
Freedom baseball, softball.
We combined these into 2 because it was just...
everything. The way the seasons went for both were really they kind of mirrored one another.
Between the two, so it was very hard to distinguish the two.
Minus league.
Yeah.
So we'll go with baseball first.
We should probably preface what it is. Freedom Baseball and Softball going to NCS Court semifinals after kind of being left in the dust in a sense.
They were kind of forgotten about. I think when
they
you
were
look
kind
at
of forgotten about because Liberty and Heritage won their B-Val race. Liberty Softball was kind of running the league and doing.
We'll get to Free Liberty and Freedom Softball in a second.
But yeah,
Freedom Baseball is kind of almost like the forgotten one in a sense where like, you know, you don't. The thing with Liberty Baseball, Heritage Baseball, you have your star players. So to say with Heritage, you had JJ. Liberty, you had Jake Farr. You had
Tristan Ainsworth.
There you go. Thank you. You had guys gonna hit Rain Miller, right? What's funny when I think about Liberty Baseball, I think Stevie Wellens is gonna be better than Rain Miller, and Stevie Wellens just that kid is just. You can see that kid playing in the bigs, I think. But when you think about Freedom, like there was no. You had guys who were solid. But there's no one that really stood out in that regard. Right? I think Colton Vick had a good season. This
was a very good team.
It was a great team. Right? They play a lot of small ball. They went about their business differently than the other two.
And they had a thing for the late inning magic. Like I don't know what else to
say. They did, and you saw that a lot more. You saw that a lot more in the playoffs, right? Yeah. You get to the playoffs, you come back down 3 runs in the 7th inning at Logan.
The 3-run shot next
and then he gets 3 Gets through and shot by Dylan DeLautner to win it. You go to El Cerrito, you shut out El Cerrito. El Cerrito was a 20-win team this season.
They were 3 seed in the bracket, if I'm not mistaken.
4
seed.
They're 4 seed. They were a 20-win team. They were legit all year.
And then you go to Cal and almost pull off the same magic.
But even if you think with the El Cerrito game, you load the bases in the 7th inning.
Yeah.
And you stopped them with the bases, but I think
this is the 2010 Giants.
This was, and then you go to Cal, and they completed half the comeback. They were down 6.
They were down 7-1.
Yeah,
going to the last inning, and then
they get 3 runs,
stringing together hits. The tying run came to the plate.
We're sitting there like, what? Like, don't tell me it's happening again.
It was 7-4 like that, and then the tying run
the way it was being handled.
Cal brought in their closer.
Oh my goodness!
And he was just like,
they took that kid out. They took that kid out so quick.
I don't think he recorded an out.
He didn't.
Yeah.
He walked, hit, walk, hit.
Hit by pitch.
Hit by pitch.
Hit by pitch in there somewhere.
And then it's just like
And then the closer came in and struck out the next two.
But seeing Evanston kind of the way he had to run station to station, the way he was managing that last inning, it was Freedom Baseball. It was very small ball.
This is torture ball.
Yes, it was.
This is the 2010 Giants. There's no other way to say it.
It was. That Cal game was very. Forget the stuff on the field. It was very interesting that whole day, but. It was interesting watching Freedom kind of operate and nearly made if they came back against Cal that same way was a down 6
I think
they would challenge Liberty Softball for the top story because that was just insane.
Yeah.
Here's the coolest part that we have to talk about, and we'll get to softball in a second. Freedom Baseball's game in El Cerrito, prom night.
Yep.
Shout out to Steve Amaro because getting the bus set and having the prom dates. They were getting ready during the game and all that kind of stuff. And then the boys afterwards, they showered at El Cerrito and then hopped on the bus straight to prom.
Mm-hmm.
That was clutch.
Because prom's in the city, I think.
Yep. So that was actually super clutch by them.
That's really cool. That
was really, really cool.
That might be the best feel-good story of the year.
That's definitely up there for sure. So that part was super cool. But, you talk about the softball team, really a slow start in non-league, right? A lot of it new head coach. He came in kind of late, They kind of had a bit of a slow start, and then they just hit their stride in league. I mean,
league, they really got it together. Grant, they almost beat Liberty the first time they played them. I think that
they went out away.
I think they were. They
went out away.
And I think you look at that game, that was really eye opening of what this team can be. And if that wasn't enough, the playoff run did it.
The playoff run did it. They go on the road to American Canyon. They win 14-3. I mean, they smacked American Canyon. And then they go even further, all the way to Crescent City.
Same day as prom, by the way.
7-hour drive. So not only did they go a 7-hour drive to Crescent City on a Thursday.
They went there without their seniors.
They went there without their seniors because Friday.
Prom night.
Because the seniors had prom.
Yep.
So they're missing. And here's the thing. Here's the thing with this Freedom team. They were missing about 7 of the seniors. Half the team was senior base.
And they
7,
won.
8, and they won. And they win at Crescent City.
And
they beat top seed. Not only did we win at Crescent City, they beat top seed Del Norte.
You can't really be mad about the seniors too. I mean, like,
no, you get
it.
Look, prom. we're not even saying it like, oh, the seniors didn't want to go. Like, it's totally understandable, right? We talked about this on the pod, a couple episodes ago.
You can't be mad about it. Like, it's prom. You get one of them. Knock on wood.
Exactly.
You're supposed to get one.
We talked about that on the pod also.
Yeah. But I mean, it's prom night. But for the underclassmen to go up there and really put belt to work. I was going to say
they put belt to ass. Anyways.
Really go up there and just go to work.
Right.
I think that win encapsulates what the height of this program can be.
They show what it can be. And this was a team, like, we were kind of wondering what's going to come from where. You graduated your Division I seniors a year before.
Yeah.
Right? You graduate, Maya Soto, who's like your star pitcher, and your star pitcher. But you graduate one of your best hitters. You graduate Maddie Evers-Lyles, who was, by the way, also Sacramento State female freshman player of the year.
Smooth.
Right? Like, you graduate your top ones. I mean, you still have Yasmin Sanchez, who's going to be one of the best.
But it's almost like they've replaced these seniors with freshmen who, granted, they didn't play to the level of those seniors.
Who are going to be just as talented.
But like, it's almost like they didn't play to the level of those seniors. Sure, you can say that. But, like, they're not that, like, they will be there in a year or two.
Oh, yeah.
And they're already contributing. Like, Jane Proctor.
Yep.
Hitting a key home run in Crescent City. She hit a 3-run shot against Liberty to get them back in the game there.
Riley Moon shows a lot of potential in the circle as a pitcher.
And the other freshmen. I mean, those two are going to be.
It's almost like the 1-2 punch you had like the year before with Maya and Jackie Graves.
Yep.
So it's going to be Freedom. I think they showed what I think in this playoff run specific league and this playoff run they showed what's to come.
Yep.
If they beat Liberty, man, I think they would have sent shockwaves.
I think so too.
But I think the fact that they were right there. I mean, the second game was not even.
Granted,
the second game was Liberty taking it personal.
Liberty walked out. Liberty walked off the field the first game saying this wasn't us.
Oh yeah.
So, but granted, Freedom still put themselves in a spot. Like Freedom rallied twice to really get back in this.
So it was. They had a great. I mean, at the end, even like Kenny Esposito, the head coach, was like, "We're not done. Like, we're going to be back.
He's like, we will be back.
We'll be back." And I was like, "Oh, heard that one." I would love if one of those two teams really went to the NCS championship game. Yeah. It just would have been like such a good, considering everything.
I walked off I left all Hamber thinking like I really like what's being built here. I really like what's going on.
And it took a little while to get there.
Yeah.
But it's once it got there, it's like, oh, okay, this is what's happening.
I feel like I ask coaches about this all the time. And I don't know if everyone gets this question. Why ask? I always say, like, does a young team need to lose in the playoffs to know what it's like and to kind of give them that extra kick in the ass?
Look, we'll talk about Liberty in a second, but I think,
because not only does it give you a playoff experience, B, it gives you that extra motivation factor of saying we never want to go through this again.
Well, let's kind of go. Our top story is Liberty softball, right? And
shocker!
Liberty softball going to their first NorCal championship game in program history.
Oh wait, hold on. Comparisons. So Freedom baseball, 2010 Giants,
minus the World Series, yes.
Freedom softball,
2012 Giants.
No, because they were young team.
2012 A's. They won
2013.
The last AL West pennant.
13. That was
13. You know. So who walks out to Careless Whisper?
Riley Moon.
Let us know in the comments.
Riley Moon warms up to it.
I can see that. That's the one song like I would love to see someone walk up to just out of nowhere.
Oh, absolutely.
But Liberty softball a step away from. I call it Liberty a step away from winning NorCal. And there's a lot we had a whole episode 2 episodes ago about what happened in Salinas, but we got to talk about this program because you mentioned with Freedom losing in the playoffs to continue to build, right? I feel like what Liberty did this year was correct. Was that if you think about the loss at College Park a year ago and the way that kind of went and how this season was. I mean, another 21 season, undefeated in the league for the second time this year. You saw a lot of a lot of juniors this year take a big step forward from their sophomore seasons,
even
right?
the freshmen from even the sophomores this year were key contributors. It was just like, wow.
It's just like you not only took a step, you not only continued what you did a year ago, you built upon what you did a year ago. Case Skinner was just masterful in the
They
in the
started
circle.
off the year rough, or not rough, but not probably to their standards.
They started off the year a little bit sluggish, not in the sense from a record standpoint, just the way everything kind of looked. I think the game against Tracy,
they did get no hit against Casa Grande.
They did get no hit against Casa Grande, but I mean, but look at the win streaks there were in between, right? Casa Grande was like the second loss,
Yeah.
Since opening day.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So I mean, the first game was like a little bit. You can see a little bit of the rust, playing against live competition, stuff like that. And then you go into the rest of the season, like
you just stormed the hell through it. Like, I don't know what else to say.
you ran it. I mean, really, it was. And it feels. What's interesting with this team is that it feels like it created such an expectation, right? Mm-hmm. It's like this is what we do. Like we talked about with Liberty basketball, right? Not losing a league.
Yeah.
Liberty wasn't out away from losing to Freedom.
Yeah, and then
before Kelsey Skaggs' home runs, before Kylie McKinney's walk off, right?
After that, nothing was close in league. But I mean, you look at this playoff run. They got the top seed, which they should have been. You really saw them pick up wins in several different fashions, which was just so interesting about this team.
This was a team that the 2 years we've had them, they were very powerful. They were a very power team, right? They're a power heavy team.
This year they still were, but they were more mature about it. Like San Marin, they put up 11 runs.
Right.
Foothill, they small ball. Casa Grande, they small ball.
The small ball stuff is the part that shocked me the most because we did not see that.
Central Catholic and Vanden, they just hit the hell out of the ball. Vanden, the wind's blowing in, they still pounded out 21 hits. So I mean, and then Salinas
was Salinas.
Yeah.
Well, you can find that episode.
We'll link that podcast.
You can find that episode on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. But this was a team that really. We see a lot of teams that make strong playoff runs. You don't know what the next year is going to be like, right?
Right.
Especially when you have a young team. This felt like, even when talking to the girls, this felt like a team that.
Also, they got their get back on College Park.
They did, but they felt like I don't want to say College Park was a fluke, but they felt like whatever happened in that game, they weren't going.
It wasn't that.
It was, but it's literally what you were saying was Freedom earlier, right? The Freedom game was interesting, and I think to correlate the two. The biggest threat to Liberty will be Freedom.
Yeah, those two. Will,
and there's no slight to Heritage, but I just think that if you look at the roster standpoints, what everything looked like this year.
I think Freedom and Liberty
speaks for itself.
Are going to be at the top of the league for a while.
I mean, to me, having Freedom back at the top is it's almost fitting.
After one.
After 1 year off.
You can really argue they never left because they went 8-2 the year prior.
Right.
So you can really argue they never left.
They've had great talent.
But this Liberty is different. I think Niners Cal High Sports had them finishing second
behind what was it, behind St. Francis or
St. Francis or
Willow Glen.
One of the two.
I came on Willow Glen was undefeated.
Yeah.
St. Francis was dominant all year, just as dominant. It's interesting when you look at the history of this program.
Liberty
in the last couple of years.
They finished the season 14th in state behind Del Oro's number 1 in the state. Really? Is this right?
That can't be
softball?
Right. Probably.
Oh, who did Freedom beat?
Del Norte.
Okay, I get it.
The one that they went 7 hours
up. I get it mixed up all the time.
So, I mean, I feel like next. But here's the crazy part. So next year you have the state softball tournament returns.
Yeah. Next year you're bringing back everyone but 2 seniors. And everyone's going to be a year better.
Well, next year, to me, we talk about the window, right? I think we talk with Brandy about what the window looks like. Next year is the window.
Next year is
10 seniors. These are all the girls who've been there pretty much since freshmen, right? If not the last 3
Liberty
years.
strength and conditioning coach, Liberty's football strength and conditioning coach Seipel was telling me about some things they're going to do to help the girls out even more. And I'm just like, wow, it's just really amazing how this community's
seeing the emphasis, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's bought in.
This community's bought in. Coach Gooch is moving appointments to drive up to Fairfield and make the games. I'm just like,
it's gone. The coolest part about this program is seeing it go from afterthought, not even that long ago, to just almost like the prize program.
Mr. Huckabee, the day after graduation, heads south 2.5 hours, and I'm just You really saw this community buy-in.
Nearly fight Selena's principal.
But you really saw this community buy-in. I think that's like that's what made this team special. Like, yes, they were good, but also like they had the love of the community.
Let me ask you, because you were here when Heritage won it in 22.
I don't. Yeah.
When Heritage won NCS,
yeah,
you were kind of around it.
Yeah.
Do you know remember what that was like? Nope.
I remember when Liberty won state for football in 2018. It kind of had the same vibe softball has right now, almost identical.
Was it not like that when Heritage won? I'm curious.
I don't know.
You don't know. Okay.
I don't know.
And I'm curious because
I say that because when Liberty's 2018 football team. The big game of the year was Pitt. If you didn't beat Pitt, the season was a wash. And it was the first time they beat Pitt in I don't know how long. We, Liberty fans, I've never seen away stands filled so much. Even Folsom didn't fill up the stands as much as they did for that state game.
Right.
Liberty packed those stands, and it was, and that's kind of the vibe I see and get from this Liberty softball team.
Right. No, I definitely feel. I mean, we talk about the playoff run; those stands are packed. Huckabee is getting kicked out of the dugout.
Yeah.
The teachers have their own look. Teachers now have their own clubhouse pretty much.
Malzahn got them pizza after the Central Catholic game.
Something like that.
One of the games, I can't remember which one.
We should stole a few slices.
Yeah, they deserve it.
I know,
it's
but
theirs.
It's pizza.
Who has Little Caesars? We have Mountain Mike's. You know what I mean?
This is very true. This is very true. But and I asked the vibe because Heritage. We act like it feels like Heritage won so long ago.
Yeah.
But it was like 2022.
God, don't say that. That was my graduation.
No, but it was 3 years ago. Right? It was 3 years ago when they won it, right? So like it's very fall over. So like to be fair, like
I'm gonna fall out of this chair like.
But
Walter
to be
White
fair,
did.
like and it's been a while since Freedom's won NCS. In that regard, right?
But Freedom's always hanging.
But first off, Freedom has a national championship behind them. Freedom's been dominant they were dominant for like a decade. So it's not like Freedom's some like out of nowhere team. Like they kind of had their moment. They kind of came back down to earth a little bit. They kind of on the way coming back and whatnot. It's interesting seeing it shift to Liberty. She's seen all this shift to Liberty now because since Heritage was around for the last 10 years, it was either Freedom or Heritage.
Freedom or Heritage.
And for 4 years, it was both.
Yeah.
For a 4 year span, it was both, right? So now, like, you see Liberty kind of get into the mold. And keep in mind, like, this Liberty team in the 2000s, right, has not been that dominant. They had, like, one playoff year. I think they had a 2015 playoff year. Keep in mind, they won NCS back in 97 before this year. So it's not like they've never done it. But it's been a rough patch. It's been a long time. There was a lot of, like, drama behind this program, a lot of stuff happening behind the scenes. It's interesting to see them be at the top of Pride Rock, so to say now, right? You talk about we talk about head coaches being big roles and everything.
I don't think
even Hines will say this. Brandy Macias may be the best hire they've had.
Yeah, I think. I'm not sure.
Forget qualification wise, because she's well overqualified.
Well, that's up for debate. No, I'm just joking. Please don't kill me. I'm sorry.
Why didn't she go to 4 Women's College World Series, right?
I'm sorry. Please don't kill me.
Say, I'm sorry. Were you in the Hall of Fame? Okay. But it's interesting, like, how much that made a big difference in the program.
I don't think there could have been a better hire for this program. I think you have someone. Are there better college softball players than her history-wise? Sure. Sure. But I don't think the mix of the player she was, the coach she is, and then like her being able to tie in being like a mom to all these kids,
right?
Really, just like culminates to her being like the perfect hire for this program.
It's really, when you think about a lot of programs, they have this one great player like Casa Grande, right?
Yeah,
Lila Partridge, right, with them. Heritage, like a couple years ago they had Michaela Mortimer. Now it's kind of Kylie Garcia, who's like their top players and whatnot. With Freedom, I think it could be Riley Moon, it could be Jalen Jordan, first baseman.
Jane Ford.
There you go.
But we saw with the BVAL all team selections, Liberty had half of them.
But to be fair, one thing I've learned about the Liberty BVAL, the BVAL selections, like if you win league, you get the most picks.
Which, yes.
It's just kind of like, I hate that. And I say that, like, it's fair because it's one of those things where, like, okay, cool, like, you won league, you should have, like, it should be really, like, who were your best, You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I can. Yeah,
to be fair, but also at the same time, to pick only 6 out of that team.
Yeah, you really could have.
You know, like
that's why
how do you fit who where?
I think BVL should do all first team, all second team, and then honorable mentions.
Yeah,
I think that's how they should do it. But I mean,
what do we know?
Yeah,
we just try to get through a podcast.
But I mean, Liberty. I mean, this was easily the story of the year.
No, this really was going to state, and then we have a whole episode of everything in Salinas, but them going to state, and I mean. It was them going to regionals. It's NorCal's, excuse me.
Yeah, NorCal
but this,
regionals.
I mean, to be fair, like there's no, I don't see where, barring injury, barring anything, I don't see where.
An act of God.
Right, and also like their JV team went undefeated in the season, so it's not even like it's not even just like, it's a. Let me double check the JV team. The JV team, their JVs went 14-2-2 this year. They had two ties. I guess.
That's all right.
See, they started the season winning 6 in a row. They lost to College Park. Seems to be a trend. And then they went unbeaten for the next 5, 6, 7. They went 7-0-1 the next 8 games. It was 1 tie against East Nicholas, probably Darkness. They tied Freedom in 6 innings, in 8 innings of Darkness. And then they lost to Freedom. And then they beat Freedom again. They played Freedom 3 times. Deer Valley's not here, so that's probably and the league's probably doesn't have a lot of JVs. So they pretty much completely split with Freedom.
Yep.
I'm very curious to see who comes up from that JV team and how. Because here's the thing: where do you fit them?
I was just going to say there aren't many spots on next.
You have 2 spots.
There aren't many spots on next year's team.
Right. So do you keep the JVs down there? I mean that's got to be hard, especially for a junior.
Yeah.
Right. Like you got to. Like, you really have to earn your spot. This team's going to be this lineup's going to be, has to be all, minus a few all seniors, if not 1 or 2 juniors, that have been there already.
So, I mean, we'll see. It sucks I won't be here to see this, but, I mean,
it'll be fun.
I'll drive up. Who knows?
It'll be fun. If they go to state. You're going to need to show up.
I will be there.
You got to show up, not to cover, just show up for the vibes.
Oh, I will. Absolutely.
Obviously.
Absolutely.
But...
Yeah. I am counting down the days.
So let me ask you this.
I cannot wait.
Let me ask you this. So you will have your farewell episode coming up probably next week, in our season finale.
Which I have an idea to pitch you about that.
We'll talk about it off mic. Let me ask you this. Because I'm going to say my moments, but after. In your 2 years here, focus more on this year. What was your biggest takeaway from this year? Not storyline wise, just like from covering the teams. Or your biggest takeaway.
It just really seems like BVL sports are back. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it really feels like this year they kind of got the recognition they deserved. Overall, really. Liberty football back in the playoffs after being snubbed. And, I asked the pit coaches when we were doing our preseason stuff, training camp stuff, and they're like, Liberty should have been a playoff team. Like, I don't know how they weren't. So, if you're in the BVAL, you know the respect. You have the respect for the different schools, I think. Look, one thing we're going to talk about, BVAL football, 4 teams made it. Liberty, Pittsburgh, Antioch, and Heritage. Even Antioch made it. They hosted a playoff game.
Right,
so I feel like, BVAL, I think people need to realize this isn't as bad of a league as everyone says it is. Are there sports that it struggles in? Yeah, yes. Sure. But, like, this isn't there's 6 teams. Mm-hmm. Like, the math just says if out of every sport, there's only going to be 2 top dogs in every sport, just because math is mathing, I guess. I don't know how else to say that.
Right. No. I think...
But you really take away, like, they got a lot more respect after this season.
Because we always hear how bad the BVAL is.
Yeah.
It's so bad, and you have this team and this, that, and the other. But, like, the people saying it also never show up.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's fascinating. And it really fascinates me because, like, you don't see this. Like, we have more... We have more... I don't say we have blinders on, but we have more, like... We see these teams every day, right? We see these kids every day. We see the programs and all that kind of stuff. So...
It really seems like...
You can say we're biased in that kind of sense, but, like, this is what we cover, right? And we are in the avenue to see it. We're in the place where we can see it every day.
And to me, the BVAL is kind of like... They have their own way of their own path to success of building teams. It seems like I'm not saying every BVAL team builds the exact same way.
It feels more homegrown.
But it feels more homegrown.
Minus
it
Pittsburgh.
Feels like BVAL has Well, you'll be surprised with that one, actually. It just feels like Beaver has more of like a home, kind of like the Giants with baseball. Like
there's more of a homegrown, right?
Homegrown, community-driven kind of approach to it.
It's easier to respect,
yeah,
compared to like a De La Salle.
And I feel like that's what makes the winning more satisfying.
It's more. De La Salle is not really the best example of it. When you go to other schools, Clayton Valley would be.
That's a better example.
Clayton Valley were like, they were, because they were a public school not that long ago, right? And then they became private and they started doing the recruiting and all this kind of stuff,
But I remember Fogey said, after the loss to Pittsburgh, Fogey said something, we're just kids from Brentwood just trying to play football. That's all we are.
I think you can correlate that to every sport, though.
Yeah.
It's just kids from Brentwood, kids from Oakley just trying to play their sport, right? And I think that's why the wins are more valued. You mentioned the wins being more valued because it is more natural.
It's more natural. Right? It's more homegrown. It's more...
Like, I hated... Like, when I was coaching at Logan, I hated when we did start doing the recruiting stuff. Because I'm like, there's talent in Union City. We have to find it and we have to coach it.
Yeah.
Right? But then we're bringing in guys from Oakland. We brought in guys from God knows where.
I'm sure the statute of limitations has run out, so you can say this.
I'm really curious as we go into the summer. I want to know how the CIF and NCS specifically, how they handle transfers. Because I feel like it's gotten so rampant. See, here's the thing.
Kind of seeing the same issue in college.
We're talking about the high school level, though, right? It's a trickle down effect. We're talking at a high school level where, like, I understand. Oh, well, my kid's not an opportunity, this, that, and the other. But I mean, if you keep transferring, how do you get just?
I think the transfer thing is a little bit out of control. I think
at this level, yes.
I think the most. I don't want to say egregious example, but the most notable example of this was Jalen Stokes going from Dublin to Doherty Valley.
This year, yes.
I think that was one that caught everyone's attention. The NCS looked like they slammed the hammer on it, saying they're going to deny him eligibility.
And then they didn't.
And they pulled it back, so I thought like there was a step forward and a step back. I don't know.
I think the story was his parents sent 1 or 2 scathing emails.
I feel like they need to do something. I forgot.
There needs to be something done, but you look when
someone brought this up, where it's like you get 1 transfer in your 4 years,
and that's that would be fair. Honestly, look, if you can't avoid it, that would be fair. I understand something. Look, if you're moving out of state, I can understand that. You move to completely different. Like for example, like if I was playing, I moved down to SoCal. Makes complete sense. That makes complete sense, right?
It's different if your parents up and move.
Right.
Rather than you stay in the same address and then just
when you go to like, because there were guys, and we're not gonna name names, but there were guys from like Liberty who went to Pittsburgh. Yeah. There were guys from around the area who who got recruited and went to De La Salle, and that's a whole different scenario. Clayton Valley, and you're sitting here like you're losing. We talk about the coaches, and the coach like, yeah, we're losing guys to technically the private schools.
Yeah, I remember talking to Seipel. He's like, oh yeah, we lose a good 6, 8, or 10 guys from East County Lions.
Right.
Every class.
So it's one of those things where like I get, look, the private schools can make the argument for it.
Yeah.
It's a different ball game.
Which is its own discussion.
But like when you're transferring from a Liberty to a Pitt, when you're transferring from a Heritage to a CBC, right? When you're transferring from Freedom to a Concord.
Yeah.
Freedom to a not Concord, Mount Diablo. Right? When you do a lateral move in that regard, it's kind of like
it's different. Really? If you're transferring to a De La Salle, Archbishop Mitty,
a private school, Reardon, or you're just going out of the region,
St. Francis,
right?
Yeah.
Or you're just moving, going out of the region. Yeah. It kind of makes sense. I think in that case, you keep your transfer eligibility. But when you have kids transferring schools like that, the Jalen Stokes is an example from this year, right? It really kind of like. I always tell, like when I coached before, I always tell my kids, it's a business. This is a bit, and it's weird telling freshmen this.
Yeah.
But it's a business now because of the way it's being treated, right? When we started recruiting at Logan, getting guys, in our varsity, like that's how it was. I never liked it. I just kind of sat there and I'm like, oh well, you guys are gonna do what you're gonna do. I hate it, right? Because he's still gonna poach for my JVs.
Yeah.
Right. So it's such a thing in high school sports now. That it makes it like you said, it does make wins here.
Yeah,
it makes the Liberty run worth it because it makes the Liberty softball run worth it because these are all the girls here from here, right? It makes
until we pull out the person who gets I am 12 in green crayon.
I am 12, but it makes it worth it, right? You look at what Freedom did; those are all Oakley, pretty much all Oakley girls, right? It makes it worth it. Liberty football, Liberty Heritage football, right? Freedom football, right?
Yeah.
Those are all homegrown kids.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with that. I think I want to see the NCS really crack down on transfers and be like, listen, this is getting dumb.
Yeah.
It's ruining, in ways, it's ruining high school sports.
In ways, yeah, and I mean,
it ruins like the authenticity of it.
We'll see.
Because if you do that, you know what? If you're gonna have the transfers, you can treat it like college. Start paying the players. That's the next step.
Yeah, that is the next step. And I mean, you see the college transfer portal as it is. I mean, these guys get 3 opportunities.
These guys are doing.
There's 3 different transfer windows.
You have guys doing college pro careers.
Yeah.
Pro careers in college.
But the thing with college is you can argue, yes, there's transfer windows, but there's like 3 different ones. One's right before bowl games, right after the season ends, and then summer.
Right.
Why can you transfer still in playoffs?
Not even. My thing is like, look, I relate it back to soccer with the transfer window. You have it before the season, in 1 month in the winter.
Yeah.
So just do 2. Like, I don't know why you have transferring the playoffs makes no freaking sense.
Because then a lot of these teams, why do you think so many teams drop out of bowl games?
Right. The transfer stuff, the money part, it's like, they say money is the root of all evil. It does pay the bills, but
this is true.
It's So the biggest thing, my biggest takeaway this year, I think, just presence matters.
Yeah.
Right. I think we talk a lot about West Coast perhaps, EBT, them not really being here like that. Mm-hmm. We see them here like occasionally, big moments, stuff like that, and I think we've noticed how you doing.
The mental illness is kicking in.
I think we've noticed. I think we know. Clip that. Juan's last highlight. Magneting a pencil to the mic stand.
Oh, the mental illness is kicking in.
I just think that presence matters, and I think we talk how the big guns. Oh well, the B-Val is this, the B-Val is that, but they're not here. Mm-hmm. They're not here as often, right? Everyone gets surprised by the stories coming out of here. Like, oh, little old Brentwood.
It's like that movie Trouble with the Curve. You can look at a spreadsheet, you can look at stats, you can look at all that.
But you have to see it firsthand.
You have to see they were.
Right. You got to see everything first. I think presence matters. Like, we notice a difference with all the players, like, when we show up. And granted, like, we're not a big paper like that. We're not a big publication like that.
There's only 2 of us.
It really is only 2 of us.
Is it 2 of us?
It's about to be 1 of us soon.
If there's more than 2 home games on a Friday night, we just like,
Listen. But I mean, we're very fortunate that like everyone understands that.
Yeah, and
I think the community understands that a bit more now.
That and like everyone's willing to work with us.
Right. No, and we're very fortunate with that. But it's also because we show up.
Absolutely, we could be in a spot where everyone's like, "Get the hell out! We don't want you."
Everyone's like, "Oh, you're here," and we kind of see that a little bit when the big guns come up.
Yeah.
Like, "Oh, thanks for coming," but like, you're here because da da da. You're not here to be here. You're here, whatever, right? Presence matters. I mean, showing it. Like, I know every staff has their limitations and stuff that they want to stay out doing.
We don't have that. No, we don't have that.
Limitations, now, come on now. But like, we are omnipresent.
Not us working as we're dying of sickness.
Oh no, not at all.
Sorry, I didn't when I got sick this past year. I tried to wear a mask and gloves.
Those never work. Come on now. Conspiracies. But yeah, I think presence matters. Like, that's just the biggest takeaway, right? I'm so thankful like we have the working relationships with all the teams, schools, all stuff we have. Like, I'm really grateful. Like, they're willing to work with us. I feel like we have close to full access as need be.
We just have to ask.
Right. But I mean, more times than not, it's never a question. We try to be everywhere. We do miss all the swimming sports. We do miss all the water sports, water polo.
Sorry.
Water polo, swimming. I know they've had good seasons too, so I want to make sure we shout them out.
Sorry.
We meant well.
There's only 2 of us.
Track is very different. Track and cross country are very different to cover.
We're trying our best here.
We are doing what we can with just 2 of us. But yeah, just the presence matters. But yeah, thank you to everyone who's been like really willing to work with us and such. I think it's been super awesome. So that's my biggest takeaway. Presence matters.
The next podcast we do will be my last one.
It will be the season finale. We'll see if we have a podcast afterwards.
We may bring a guest on for that one. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
There was one person we have not brought on.
I know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about. But that would be fun. Next one. So, are you excited for?
Can I move tomorrow?
Drives back up for the podcast. What is it, like a 3-hour drive?
2.5, 3 hours. It's not bad. Hey, no drive is bad when you're blasting Kenny Rogers.
Wait, let me know when you hit the traffic. The unnecessary traffic on the way to or from.
Honestly, on 99, you don't have that.
Really?
Yeah.
Wish we didn't have that on 101. On the way down to Salinas.
You do have it coming back. You do have it when you...
Coming
well,
back.
Granted, we did leave like at 5, 6 in the morning, so there was no traffic then.
True, that's true.
But like
that's
if
true.
you leave... When we came back, we did hit some traffic.
That's true.
It was
I
like
get that.
rush hour.
I get that.
And everyone wanted to get home to watch March Madness.
I mean...
Because culture.
Yeah, I get that.
Gonzaga lost!
On that note, ladies and gentlemen, this has been the episode of the Press Talk Sports Live. Each and every week, we shed the light and be the voice for sports here, high school sports here in the Brentwood and East County, in the Brentwood and Oakley area, kind of East County, I guess. We are presented by the Brentwood Press newspaper for as low as $20 a year. You too can keep up with everything happening within East County area, Brentwood, Oakley, Discovery Bay, occasionally Antioch. Go to thepress.net for more and go to thepress.net and click on subscribe for more information. For the soon-to-be leaving Hall of Famer, Juan Cebreiros, I am your host, Jeff Weisinger. Thank you so much for joining us, and as always, take care of one another. We will catch you soon. Smile and wave.
Smile and wave at her grandfather, please.